Alrighty, and we are now recording so that we'll have this later for everyone to watch back. And some folks might still be getting added in, so if you hear some chimes or anything, please just ignore that for the meantime. Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Elizabeth Workman. I am a graduate assistant in the International and Area Studies Library, and I am the host this semester for the International Cooking Show. This is our first episode happening right now, so thank you so much to Dani for being our first chef this season. If you watched previous versions of the show, then welcome back. This will look pretty similar. But if this is your first time coming, welcome. We're excited to have you here. If you aren't familiar, the show originally launched in 2021, totally online as a way to help gather together through COVID and finding opportunities for people to interact and bond over the good things happening. Since then, this has evolved, and the same message is there to represent the way in which we all come together over this food. But really, we are celebrating the diversity and the breadth of what our campus and our surrounding community have to offer when it comes to food and to the culinary arts. So I'm just going to go through a couple things on my side, some great information from the library, again, as the host for all of this. And then I'm going to turn this over for a demonstration on cooking enchiladas by Dani. Dani is an undergrad student here in the food science program, I believe we said. So lots of great material here. I'm sure we'll see some wonderful cooking skills. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can all see some information if I'm on the right one. Just a moment. All right, and we are actually going to start over here. Just forgive me as I get this all caught up. And can everyone see my screen? If I can get a thumbs up, that would be wonderful. Looks great. Thank you, Dani. So we are going to just talk a little bit about, again, the reason of coming all together and the ways in which the library can direct you if you're interested in cuisine and cooking and research, or just if it's a hobby of yours. You might be familiar with these quotes. This first one has been used in previous International Cooking Show segments. We probably are familiar with, in order to cook delicious food, you must eat delicious food. And even more than that, food is delicious when you learn about it and how it was made, or you see the effort that goes into the dish, and it helps you to appreciate things like that even more. And if there's one thing that we're trying to do here, we want to make sure that you are appreciating food, and that this platform can help connect you to appreciating more food. The intention of the show is to showcase different kinds of dishes and cuisines from around the world, and also to showcase those stories and cultures that go along with them. So to add to this message a little bit more, I have included an additional quote from Guy Fieri, which is that cooking is all about the people, and that food is maybe the only universal thing that has the power to bring everyone together. And with that, it's not something really that you have to ponder necessarily, but I think it's a wonderful way to get started with this kind of cooking show. And there are also some library resources that I would like to point you to. If you have your phone out and you want to scan these QR codes, it'll take you to our directory to the entry for them in our catalog online. But I want to tell you a little bit more about resources from the library that you can check out to learn more about these kinds of things. Plenty of print resources in the library relate to food and culture. These are just 3 of our cookbooks that are related to this sort of cuisine that we're talking about today specifically. Rick Martinez Rick Martinez's book, Mi Cocina, is a part cookbook that essentially tours the food from all around Mexico. So it's got great variety in there. Mercados is one that I particularly like. It's part cookbook and part travelogue that, again, provides recipes, but it also documents the places that food comes from and the people, again, that contribute to that. And then Chicano Eats is not only a great resource for Mexican-American specific recipes, but Chicano Eats has a blog that has wonderful online resources, cooking classes you can sign up for, as well as other free recipes and things like that. So these are some things rooted in the library that I would like to point out. All of these here are great places to start. And then if you're looking to make this recipe yourself, it will be shared after the event when this video goes up, the recording of it, and I'll show you where that will go. It will be included in the description so that you can make it yourself. If you're looking for specific ingredients, or if you're in the CU area looking to just support more local businesses, I would recommend these places: Los Pesas, El Progreso, and then World Harvest International is a great spot for more general international food, especially like buying in bulk or spices and things like that if you're not familiar. All of these places also you can access online. They all have websites if you want to look at things like that in advance. I also want to point out, again, talking about supporting the community and the people around us, if you're looking for places to shop for specific things, or if you're just looking to get more involved through the end of October, you can still go to both the Champaign and the Urbana farmers markets. There's a couple of those left on Tuesdays for the Champaign one, and then on Saturdays for the one over in Urbana. So really encourage you, if you're unfamiliar, to check out the markets. I also want to connect you a little bit more with finding things in the library while we're all together here, and to show you some places that you can go. You should now be seeing the Illinois Library website. Hopefully this looks familiar in some regard to you. But if you're looking for more resources in the library, like databases related to food and cooking, an easy way to get there is if you go to those subject-specific databases, is to scroll down on the page and find the A to Z sub-database list. And then in here, you can sort by other things, but Cooking Easy to type in your food as your search term to find some great places that have more general information and resources relating to food for research if you're doing projects or just personal interest. I especially like food and drink and history as a history person. I also want to point out to you on the International and Area Studies Library website, some ways in which you can perform specific research relating to international studies on this is to use our IAS Easy Search right here on our homepage to enter your search terms to help with finding resources specific to that. And also, if you scroll down here, you can see all the other things going on in the library if you want to get more involved. You can see over here on the right with our calendar where you'll see an upcoming cooking shows, as well as we have a current exhibit going on that I would like to promote. You can see all of that on our website too. And then while we're also here, I want to show you that instead of media space for the recordings for these for this semester, to make it more accessible to folks in our community and all kinds of people that want to catch up with this, we're going to be putting it on the new International and Area Studies Library YouTube channel. This might be a little more challenging to find as it doesn't currently have videos right now, but once it's uploaded, it should be more easy to find just searching on YouTube, and then you'll get a specific link that goes out to this once it is uploaded with the recipe and the description and everything. So as we're doing this, I'm going to go ahead and, if I can get back to not sharing, what we're going to do then is open this up, hand it back to Dani, who is going to give us the demonstration for enchiladas. And if you have any questions regarding or comments to this as we go on and there's conversation you want to contribute, just put it in the chat and then I will vocalize it to Dani as we go on.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, I think you're good.
Okay, great. Well, hi everyone, my name is Dani. I'm a food science student here at the University of Illinois, and today I will be demonstrating how to make enchiladas rojas de pollo, or chicken enchiladas with red sauce. What this recipe and Mexican cooking means to me is it kind of relates me to my relatives. I think of my tia, I think of my abuela. Both were actually very excited that I was going to cook these, so they sent me the recipes. My abuela even sent me a little video of herself making the whole recipe, so very grateful for that, and I really just love Mexican cooking. So without further ado, let's get into some of the prep work that I've already done. So in this bowl, I have about 2 pounds of shredded boiled chicken breast. How I prepared this was I boiled some water with some chicken bouillon until the chicken reached a temperature of around 165 degrees, and I pulled it out and shredded it with a hand mixer. I recommend a hand mixer just because it gets easier to shred up the chicken into those like smaller bite-sized pieces. Some other prep work that I did was in this blender, I have about 5 boiled chili guajillos, 3 chiles de árbol, and 1 ancho chili, along with half of an onion and 5 cloves of garlic. Now, I'll do a quick demonstration on how I prepared the chili. So this is a guajillo chili, this is an ancho chili, and this is a chile de árbol. As you can see, pretty significant size differences, but I'll show you how to prepare a chili to be able to boil it and deseed it. So what I did was I cleaned this with a cloth just around the edges, and what you want to do is take your knife and cut off the stem of the chili just like that. Now this can get kind of messy, so I want to have the garbage close by, because these are going to start falling everywhere. And then you take your knife and kind of go along that seam of the chili. go along just like that. And you'll see that the chili will open up. All the seeds inside can be dumped out, just like that. Pull off any of those fibers on the inside. And just like that, you've had a de-seeded chili. Now, how I specifically prepared these chilies was I, of course, de-seeded them, cleaned them, and toasted them in a small fry pan just until they started to blister and like release their aromas. You'll start smelling it. And next, I put the onion and garlic into a small saucepan along with the chilies and about 3 cups of water. Boiled that for 20 minutes and then transferred it into the blender. Also, some other things that I reserved is 1 cup of that boiled chili water. It's going to add a nice deep flavor to the sauce, as well as about 2 cups of reserved chicken broth. So, before I start cooking the chicken, I also have a spice blend. This is a spice blend that I'm using. I'm using about 1 tablespoon of oregano, 2 tablespoons of cumin, and 1 tablespoon of cayenne pepper. Now, if you're a little bit sensitive to heat, you don't have to use cayenne pepper. You can also use chili powder. The cayenne pepper just adds a really nice kick to it. So we're going to sprinkle that all around the chicken. Grab a fork and start making sure all the spices are coating that chicken. Should turn a nice red color due to that cayenne. Okay. That's looking pretty good. Now, over on the stove, we're going to heat up about in a large fry pan, we're going to heat up about 2 tablespoons of oil. And while that's coming to heat and starting to simmer, here I have about half of a diced onion. Now, this adds just a little bit more depth and flavor to the chicken filling. There's many different ways and fillings you can use for enchiladas. There's actually a vegetarian enchilada called enchiladas mineras, which just uses like potatoes and carrots, which is a great vegetarian option if you're interested in that. But I just really like the texture and the flavor of adding the onion in with the chicken. Now the oil's simmering, we're gonna add in our onion. Stir that up, make sure the oil gets on all the pieces. And we're gonna cook this for about 5 to 7 minutes or until they just start getting a little translucent. I have this on medium to low heat right now. Yeah, I'm just gonna turn on the flame a little bit while I start on my next task, which is preparing the sauce in the blender. So to come over here, I'm going to pour in our reserved 1 cup of chili water. And like I said, 2 cups of our reserved chicken broth. I'm also being sure to reserve about 1/4 of a cup of that broth just to add back into the chicken to give it a little bit more juiciness once it's cooked. All right, now we can transfer this to a blender. Make sure that's secure. And to the sauce, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of oregano. I like to just eyeball it, but you can be a little precise. Okay. Next, put the lid on the blender. And I'm going to mute myself just so that you guys don't hear the blender noises. But yeah, I'll blend this for about 1 minute.
While you're doing that, I just want to say, I bet your kitchen smells so good. That's all I was thinking about. It was like the onions and like, I just know it smells good right now.
Okay, now that our chilies and our onion and garlic are all blended up, we can take our mixture and bring it over here, where we're going to use a sieve to kind of strain out like the pulp of the chili. You'll see it's kind of start to form as I start pouring. You're just going to pour that right in there. And I like to use a spoon to kind of help press the juice through the pulp. Just kind of circle it around. And you'll start to see some excess chilies start to get caught. And so we do this just to make the sauce a little bit thinner. But this chili pulp is actually a great ingredient to use if in like other dishes. You could use it for like as a coating on other types of meat. I've seen also other recipes use the chili paste as coating for the chicken, along with some other spices. So it's a pretty versatile paste that you're making if you wanted to save it and use it for something else. Okay, like again, slowly adding that sauce, stirring as we go, and we'll get a nice, flavorful chili base for our sauce. Just like that. And now, yeah, just the rest. Now, if you're on a budget, or I mean, this recipe is actually pretty affordable, but maybe if you don't have access or you're far away from any of those wonderful Mexican grocery stores that Elizabeth talked about, you could also substitute this, of course, for canned chilies, enchilada sauce. It's easy, it's quick, but it's fun to kind of do it this way as well. So there we go. We got our bowl of enchilada sauce. Now we're gonna pop it back over to the oven where our onions have been nicely cooking. Get a little bit brown to them. They're nice and translucent. So now we're gonna add our shredded chicken. And of course, incorporate the onions in with it as well. You're just gonna get all of those nice flavors incorporated together. There you go. Now, as I said before, I'm going to use about a quarter cup of that reserved chicken broth to use it to kind of brighten up the chicken, make it a little bit more tastier. Now, another thing that my abuela told me is that if you're in a pinch, you can also use rotisserie chicken um, as a chicken substitute as opposed to like boiling it. It also might be a little bit cheaper for some, so that could be a wonderful alternative if you're looking to save some time. So I'm just gonna let this cook for a little bit longer, maybe add a little bit more chicken broth. You can see it start to kind of get a little bit with all the juices. There we go. And we're just gonna let that cook for about 2 more minutes. Now, in this pan, we're going to start the base for our sauce. So I have this on around a low to medium heat. And what I'm going to do is add 2 tablespoons of butter to the pan. And what we're basically going to be making is something called a roux. Now, a roux is a mixture of butter and some sort of starch. In this case, we're going to be using flour. And as a food science major, I gotta plug some of that food science knowledge. And so basically, what makes a starch thickened sauce like enchilada sauce be able to be thickened is due to something called starch gelatinization. So our starch flour is made up of these molecules called amylose and amylopectin, which are just linear and range chains of glucose molecules. And what happens when we add heat and water, which is going to be coming from our enchilada sauce, is those starch molecules start to swell and take on water and start to thicken our sauce, which is pretty cool. You could use science while you're cooking.
That is really cool. I definitely didn't know the science stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, roux are commonly used also in like different types of sauces. You can make like white sauces with roux. A lot of Creole cooking uses dark roux. So it's a good kitchen staple to know how to make. Okay, so now that our butter's all melted, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of flour slowly to the mixture and use a whisk until that starts coming to a nice paste. We don't want to let our mixture burn, so I'll turn on it a little bit. And keep adding that flour slowly. Now, if you have a metal whisk, I suggest doing this on either a stainless steel or ceramic pan. You don't want to mess up your nonstick pans with getting all scraped up. Okay. Okay, so now that it comes like a thick consistency, okay, we can add in our sauce. But first, don't forget about the chicken. We want to take this. This is already used for our filling, so to have it cool off so we're able to handle it with our hands, we're going to move it over to the table. And just does this picture right now. Okay, so add your bowl of enchilada sauce. Okay. Here's a time when I'm also going to preheat my oven. If you have a slow to heat up oven, you might want to do this before you start cooking. My oven heats up pretty fast. So I'm heating up my oven to around 325 degrees Fahrenheit. And then the really important thing is to add the sauce slowly. So we have our bowl. And now as we start to slowly add our sauce, enchiladas are a little bit messy, so you gotta stay with me. Use a whisk to incorporate that flour mixture. Now it's going to clump up, don't worry, that's okay. That's just, remember, the starch taking on that water, and as you start to disperse it, it'll go throughout the mixture and you can distribute it. See, starts to get that nice thick taste, consistency. Now it's time to add a little bit more sauce. Now, the great thing about enchilada sauce is that there's many different ways to make it. I've seen people use like California chilies, or like more spicy chilies, or just like the more spicy sauce. Like my abuela, for instance, just used chilies, which kind of have a more mild taste. But I like a little bit of spice, so I added those chilies that are kind of different. One thing about it is just keep on stirring. More and sauce starts to thicken up. Like that. And finally, we're just gonna add the rest. Now, cooking enchiladas is something you might want to do in darker fluids because I can attest that this sauce is everywhere. Especially if it's your first time making enchiladas. I definitely suggest it. We're gonna let that come to a simmer, and I'm gonna wash my hands. I said on the POLLO series. And almost forgot. To our chicken, we're gonna season it with some salt. I usually say season to taste. Everyone's salt tolerance is a little different. And just add a little, stir it. And taste your food when you're cooking. That's a really good tip. A lot of people sometimes get really hung up on trying to follow a recipe, but you can modify recipes to be to your taste as well. So, like I said, we're just gonna take a little bit of chicken. Very good. Got that nice spice, that earthiness from the oregano, and that slow heat from the cumin. Okay. So now, while our sauce is starting to simmer, come to a simmer, we can start our tortilla preparation. I'm gonna just move some stuff out of the way. Now, the tortillas are the key to a really nice enchilada. They can also add a lot of flavor to them as well. So my favorite way of tortillas to use, totally not sponsored, obviously, but milagro. You can find I found these at El Pareto. They're my favorite tortillas to use, and they're just really, really tasty and hold together pretty well. So how I'm going to prepare the tortillas, is I'm going to heat about 1 cup of vegetable oil. You want to use a neutral oil, just because like olive oil tends to impart like a certain kind of taste. So you want more neutral. I'm going to put about 1 cup of this into a small fry pan over a medium heat. You want just enough so that the tortillas will be covered. And basically what we're doing is we're going to essentially very shortly fry the tortillas in this oil, just until they start to puff up. What this will do will basically pre-cook our tortillas so they'll take less time in the oven, as well as give a nice coating on the outside so that our sauce can stick to it. So that's going to take a little bit to heat up. Don't forget to stir your sauce every once in a while. Now, if you're looking at your sauce and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is too thin, or this is too thick, don't panic. I always recommend saving a little extra chicken broth or a little extra chili water just to add to it if it's too thick. If you're noticing it's a little bit too thin, you can also add some flour very slowly, small amounts, a little bit at a time. But as we start to cool, like start sticking sauces like this, it goes through something called retrogradation, which is where starch molecules will start to come together. And if you've ever noticed, like starch sticking soup start to come together and have that water at the top, that's due to starch retrogradation. Starch molecules start to come together, and the sauce will become more thick and thick. That's what I'm practicing today. The more it is. Mine's looking pretty good. You'll let that simmer for just a little bit longer. And now, a cool way to check if your oil is ready is to use either like a wooden spatula. I like to use a chopstick, and you're going to place it down in the center of your oil. And if you start to see bubbles starting to form, they're really small, so they probably won't show up on camera. But you'll start to see small little bubbles form around the base of whatever utensil you're using. They can be pretty numerous. This oil needs to heat up for a little bit longer, but it's just a good way to test. Now, my first time making this, I had to go through a lot of tortillas, so I suggest always buying more than you think you'll need. Tortillas are really versatile. You can use them for quesadillas or tacos if you have too many left over. But I definitely recommend buying more for this recipe just because if they break or if they take out too much oil, they can rip, and it's always better to have. So over here, I have a plate to put our tortillas onto as well. We're just gonna place this over here. Yeah, and our oil's starting to move pretty nicely now. Once again, I'm gonna check it with our chopstick. Yeah, and the bubbles are starting to form more fast. So before I forget, I'm gonna turn off the heat for our sauce, just so that doesn't overcook. Give it a stir once again, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. For safety reasons, I like to use tongs for this. If you ever know, moms like to kind of go crazy, or realize your grandmas like to use their hands and cut out the oil, but we're focused on safety, so we're going to use our tongs, and always remember to lay the tortilla away from you. If you lay it towards you, it might splash. So we're going to lay our tortilla in the oil and press it down. And as you see, it's starting to puff up very quickly, and just like that, that's all the time it needs. This goes pretty fast. So I'm just going to lay down about 5 tortillas. This recipe makes about 14 enchiladas. Yeah, just for the sake of time, I'm only going to make 5 on camera for you guys. Yeah, so you want to take it out just straight up the top. If you leave it in for too long, you risk the tortilla breaking, and it's not going to be fun to clean out that oil. I just like to set the tortillas on top of each other. They can sit in the oil, it's okay. They're nice and pillowy. Like I said, I like to do more, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do about 2 more. It's a little better. Just like that. Perfect. If the oil starts getting a little scary, don't be afraid to turn down the heat or start splattering everywhere. Remember, patient safety is very important. So I'm just going to move the sauce over, the oil over there, and move our tortillas to the table. So now that our tortillas are ready, sorry, I'll move this out of the way. we can start assembling our our enchilada station. So we have our chicken. I'm going to go grab our sauce from the stove. And now is a good time to season your sauce as well. Right now it just kind of tastes like chilies. So now that's something I like to season it with a very, very small amount of vinegar, just to add that nice acidity. Um, the most I've ever used is a teaspoon. So remember, less is more. Very slowly add. I like to do this to taste. If you like a more acidic sauce, feel free to add more vinegar. Give that a nice stir. And we're also going to salt it. Again, this is just salt to taste. Kind of what we taste this too. The whisk is a really good to use for this, just because it really incorporates that really nice sauce. I'm going to give this a quick taste test. You can use a little bit more salt. Give it a nice stir. All right. Let's go over here. And this is the messy part. It's actually a semblance of the tortillas. So, my recommendation for cheese to put into the enchilada is I have about you're gonna need 2 cups in total for all 14 of the enchiladas. But like I said, since I'm making 5, just a little bit. My favorite to use is Monterey Jack cheese. You can also use Chihuahua cheese or mozzarella if it's cheaper. And the star of the show is the real cotija cheese. This is cotija cheese. It's a more firm cheese, definitely more acidic. It's got a little bit of a creamier flavor to it. So we're going to use that as like a sprinkle on the top of our enchilada. All right, and I'm going to lay out 2 plates to be able to assemble our enchiladas. Having a spoon for the sauce makes it a little bit easier to pour onto the plates. Don't forget, wash your hands before you start touching these. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a scoop of our sauce and lay it out on a plate, just like that. There's many different ways to do this. Some people like to actually dip the tortillas into the sauce themselves. I'm not that skilled yet. This is just an easier way for me to do it. You're gonna take one of your oiled tortillas and dip it in that sauce. Make sure it gets nice and evenly coated. Then bring it over to the oops. Let's add a little bit more sauce to that side. Bring it over to the next plate. And since your hands are clean, grab some of your chicken filling and spread that all along on the inside. Chicken's nice and juicy. Okay. And if you want, you can use a paper towel, but all this cheese is going in the enchiladas anyway. So I like to take a good amount of that Monterey Jack cheese. And I'm sure people will be more grateful the more cheese you add, so don't be afraid. add some of that cheese onto there, and then we're gonna roll the enchilada like so. And there, we got one made just like that. And to prep our baking dish, we're gonna take a scoop of that sauce, lay it on the bottom, and kind of spread it out with the bottom of the spoon. This adds just like a nice base so that the enchiladas don't really stick to the pan. Just like that. Great. And now we can take our enchilada and just place it right in there. You just basically repeat the process for all of the servings that you want to make. I think people are going to eat around 2 enchiladas, so this full recipe would make about 7 to 8 servings, which is great for parties. I know that my family likes to make big batches of these for like Christmas. They're pretty popular during then. Enchiladas can also be enjoyed as a breakfast. So if you're looking for a more savory breakfast, they could be a great option. And they're so customizable. That's really one of the great parts of them. And they can also be a really fun activity for kids as well. Kids like to get messy, and these certainly are a little bit messy. Don't be afraid if your tortillas start to break a little bit. They're gonna bake more in the oven and hopefully solidify a little bit more, have a little bit more cohesiveness. So yeah, Maya Abuela is able to do this pretty fast. I'm not up to her speed yet. I think in her video that she sent me, she used like 25 chili guajillos and like made 40 enchiladas. Like, it was crazy. But as just a nice starting out recipe, this one's definitely pretty easy to make. Okay, and if you need more sauce, don't be afraid to add that on. I thought with this method of like using the plates and kind of like using the sauce for one plate and the filling for another, just keeps it cleaner. And if someone else is helping you, they can start dipping the tortillas into the sauce while you're filling them. Yeah. There we go. Now we're on to our last enchilada. And just unfold that tortilla. Bring it over here. Add that chicken filling. Now this recipe, you're gonna notice that you're gonna have some enchilada sauce left over. That's totally okay. Don't feel like you need to use all of it in cooking all of them. It's good to reserve that sauce if you have any leftover enchiladas to put them on to make them more moist when you heat them up, because they're gonna lose some of that moisture in the refrigerator and when they're reheated. So it's just always nice to have some extra sauce. And just like that, we're gonna lay our last enchilada into the baking dish. I'm gonna rinse my hands. All right, now here comes the fun part. Adding more of that wonderful sauce that we just made. I like to just drizzle it all over and again spread it out with this. Make sure that each enchilada kind of gets that nice coating on it. You can add as much sauce as you want. There we go. And as a little like topping, you can also add more of that delicious Monterey Jack cheese. Make sure that gets spread all around there. Now, some people like to also garnish enchiladas with like radishes or onions and cilantro, which can be really great additions. And now, finally, for the cotija cheese, this is I usually just break a little chunk apart and start breaking it up with my fingers. There's probably a better method for this, but this is just how I like to do it. You want to get those big chunks into smaller chunks, just like that. I don't really use like a truly specified amount. You can add as much as your heart desires. But if I had to guess, this would be about 2 tablespoons onto these 5. And we're just going to gently sprinkle that all over. Cotija cheese can also be used as like a finishing garnish as well if you don't want to melt it in the oven, but I just prefer it melted. And now that these are absolutely filled with cheese, I'm going to rinse my hands again. And the great thing about enchiladas is that you don't have to bake them for very long. So these are only going to take about 10 minutes in the oven. Listen to the cheese melted. If you want to preserve some of that like moisture in there, feel free to use an aluminum foil. Put that on top. I'm just going to move some of this stuff out of the way. Okay. And now we're ready to put these in the oven. And again, we're going to put those in there for around 10 minutes at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. So, to save a little bit of time, I already put some enchiladas I prepared yesterday into the oven. They've been baking. Here's the top. You can bring this onto the table. Pull the roll up. It's a little bit hard to do with oven mitts on. Wonderful. That's what your finished enchiladas should look like. If you want, you can let them cool down for about 2 minutes, or if you're really excited, you can just jump right on in. I'm gonna add just a little bit more cotija cheese to the top of it. Get a plate for serving. As you can see, that cheese is nice and melted. And just like that, that's all there is to it. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much. That was excellent. Wow. That looks really, really good. I second what Alice said in the chat. It looks amazing.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you so
appreciate
much.
it.
And would you do us the honor of a taste test if it's not too hot, since
Oh, yeah, of course.
we got to see your taste tests along the way. I'm sure it's just the supreme bite.
Now, chicken enchiladas are my favorite. As I've said, my grandma prefers beef ones, I believe, but chicken's always been my favorite. Just take a nice taste test. The addition of that extra chicken broth definitely makes the chicken so tender. That's a really key element of this recipe. You want to keep your chicken nice and juicy so that it doesn't dry out. And it's got that really flavorful bite. As you can see, the tortilla is nice and soft, and the cheese is, of course, beautifully melted. This is a more like mild to spicy recipe. So like I said, if you want to adjust it, you can to your spice levels, but this is definitely a great like mild to spicy recipe to use.
Absolutely. And I love the way that you shared like customizable tips along the way. Thank you again. And as Anu, I believe, in the chat said, that was a wonderful demonstration as well. Does anyone have any questions for Dani while we're all together still? I know I took some notes throughout that personally. So in that case, I'll go ahead and cease this recording. And as a reminder, all attendees will receive a link to this recording when it's available online, and that will include the recipe. Alice, did you have a question, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, something went wrong. I was just wondering about how long the prep time takes.
Sure. So this is a kind of a lengthy process, especially like the chicken takes around 10 minutes to boil and the chilies take around 20 minutes. I'd say that's where the bulk of the time is. The best thing to do is lay everything out just so that you have everything near to you. It definitely saves on the time. And just like I did to save some time in the morning, I boiled the chicken yesterday and just put it in the fridge. So if you want to do some like do some pre-prep work like the day before, it really makes the whole process a little bit more easier. All in all, if you wanted to make all of the enchiladas, it takes around an hour to an hour and a half. But
Awesome,
it's
thank
definitely
you.
worth it.
Yeah, it looks great.
Thank you for answering that. I think that's also very important. We have another question if you have the time. What sort of fillings would you use to make this vegetarian, like in place of chicken? And do you know of
Uh-huh.
like a flour substitute that can be used in the roux to help make it gluten-free?
Sure, yeah. So some of my favorite vegetarian substitutes is like a wonderful black bean and spinach enchiladas. Those are really, really tasty. You can add a whole bunch of vegetables to them. You can add like broccoli to add a little bit more texture. And the black beans, of course, with the corn tortillas makes it something called a complete protein, which is going to have all your essential amino acids in it, which is pretty important. Like I said, a more traditional enchilada is called enchiladas mineras, which is I've never had them personally, but my mom brought them up, which is potatoes and I believe carrots. You can also add peas to them as well. And substitution of flour, you can also use cornstarch. It's going to add a little bit more glossy color to the sauce. But cornstarch is actually used in like a modified version of cornstarch is actually used in like the jarred or the canned enchilada sauce that you see in the grocery stores.
Wonderful information. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I was also thinking about vegetarian fillings, so thank you for asking clarification, attendees. And is there anything else before we all think about that wonderful meal before we have to wait for lunch a little bit longer?
Yes, I have a question. To Danny. Danny, what kind of tortilla did you buy, or did you make it? Maybe I just probably missed this part.
Yeah, of course. So
If you can show us.
my favorite brand of tortillas to use is El Milagro. I've
Okay.
had difficulty finding them at like Walmart or like Jewel, especially around the surrounding areas. They don't really have like too much of a traditional Mexican like
Mhm.
selection. So I was able to find these at El Progreso, which is in Urbana.
Okay.
Um, they're really, really cheap. Only like I think I paid 80 cents for about 13 of them. So they're a really great flavor and they're pretty big too as well.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'll just look this specific tortilla in Mexican store.
I
So
definitely recommend it.
yes. It would be probably delicious.
And
Thank
if you
you.
missed the very beginning of this, when the recording goes up, I went through a couple local stores that might have some places to find ingredients or specifics if you can't find them. So make sure you watch the recording back too if you're looking for other tips.
Yeah, I was also able to find the chilies at El Progreso as well, which was and the chicken bouillon, which is pretty cool. All the rest, all the ingredients you can basically get there, which is great.
Wonderful. That's great. So hopefully we'll all be seeing each other then walking around El Progreso. All right, well then I'll go ahead and stop this recording. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. Thank you again, Dani, so much for being our first cook on the show this season.
Thank
Yeah,
you
of
so
course.
much,
Thank you so much.
Elizabeth, and thank you so much, Danny. Thank you
Yeah, of
guys for
course.
demonstration presentation. It was excellent.